This week on the Town Tailgate podcast, it's trade deadline talk, and I don't know, Julio. I feel like we were kind of right.
Yeah, like A for effort. When we
A's are
talked,
good. I'll take an A.
When we talked in the last episode about the trade deadline, we said the A's need a starter and a second baseman, and they got them, just not the guys we thought. This week, we're going to talk about the trade deadline with the Oakland A's as well as the rest of Major League Baseball. And on top of that, Chris, we had a jam-packed week of action.
2 whole games, baby.
Yeah.
2 whole games. Didn't pan out exactly the way we would hope, but, at least it was some A's baseball. But with the lack of baseball, we got to watch other things, so I guess we talk a little bit about that. Some basketball, some movies, so on and so forth. Then we preview the coming week, and that's pretty much it. So let's start unpacking the gear. We're in the parking lot. Set up the grill. Let's grab some beers, and let's get ready to go. What do you say, Julio?
Let's do it. This is the part where Chris actually had a pretty good opening setup. But just like this past week in Oakland A's baseball, things don't go the way they're supposed to.
Bro, trades on trades on trades on trades on trades. Every prospect that the Padres has ever had still wasn't traded, and they traded all their prospects. Welcome to the Town Tailgate podcast. I am Chris Madrigal. You just heard Julio Reynoso. I had a good opening, Julio. I swear to God. I don't know. I blinked for a second.
Yeah, well, blink and then you'll miss the A's only playing 2 games the past week.
Oh, my God. Yeah, blink and you see them only make 2 moves. One of them was for a pitcher that we didn't need. Anyway. Yeah, 2 games, a few moves, some COVID scares. That's been our week. So welcome to the A's baseball life. Post-trade deadline podcast, so let's jump right into it. News around the league, you guessed it. It's going to be the MLB trade deadline.
Trades.
So, I don't know, Julio. I think let's just start off some winners and losers.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, do you have a winner?
I think you've already mentioned it, but the frickin' the Slam Diego Padres, man.
I love that they named it that too. That's so great.
Yeah, they're not only, I think they're going all in for this year, but with the flexibility of a lot of these contracts they did pick up, they're gonna be in contention for at least the next 2 to 3 years. Obviously, the big move was Mike Clevinger, getting him from the Cleveland Indians in exchange for Austin Hedges, one of their catchers, as well as some prospects. They also picked up another catcher, Aaron Nola.
I was just about to say, they lost their catcher, but little do they know, they picked up another catcher, Mr. Austin Nola, probably the best young catcher in the league the past 2 years.
Yeah, he's really started clicking to get to Seattle, but guess what? He's not in Seattle anymore. He is moved to San Diego. But guess what, Chris? They lost a catcher, so you know what? Let's get 2 catchers. So they got Jason Castro, veteran from Anaheim. They also picked up Mitch Moreland from Boston for prospects. Mitch Moreland, it's expected probably to be like the full-time DH, as well as playing some first base for Eric Hosmer. And kind of arguably one of the comeback players of the year, Trevor Rosenthal, who's had a pretty solid year with Kansas City. He goes to San Diego for some prospects. So at the end of the day, you make your team a lot better. And really the only major prospect they gave up was Taylor Trammell. He was one of the highest rated prospects in all of baseball, as well as the Padres system. But at the end of the day, they didn't really lose a lot.
Yeah. Wasn't it Trammell who named them Slam Diego Padres?
I don't.
I think it was.
Well, the crazy thing was he was actually. They got him last summer as a part of the I can't remember the specifics of the trade, but it was when Puig was sent to the Indians from the Reds, and then the Reds had sent Trammell to San Diego, and then San Diego. It was this whole hodgepodge of moves, but the freaking Padres, man, they're going for it.
So the interesting thing about the trades and moves that they made was obviously they gave up a shit ton of prospects. Like I think it was 9 or something like that total, which Trammell was obviously one of them. But the two like main players of their moves that they made, they're locked up long term. So it's like almost like an eye for an eye, except this eye is ready now as opposed to 3 years from now. So like they're fucking ready to go. So Mike Clevenger signed till 2023. Wait, I'm sorry.
I think or he's got arbitration coming up, but he's more or less
team control.
Yeah.
Team control. You know, I mean, that's kind of what I mean. He signed through team control till 2024. I think he's up for arbitration this year. Austin Nola, very similar. I think he was the same draft class as Murphy and those guys, maybe. 2026 is his free agent. He's up for arbitration not till 2023. Insane. But Trevor Rosenthal, free agent this coming off season. That's unfortunate, but who knows? Jason Castro, a free agent this coming off season. But let's be realistic. Austin Nola is going to be the main everyday catcher. Mm-hmm. Jason Castro was brought in there to be either a DH against right-handers or give Austin Nola a break every couple days against right-handed starting pitching. Throw him in there. That's just kind of like a novelty piece that they're adding to the puzzle.
They still have Francisco Mejia, who he was kind of one of their guys that were excited about a couple years ago. Since he's been in the league, he hasn't really lived up to those expectations, but that's a awesome catch and do it out there.
That's a good point.
They also, another thing, they got more stuff. They picked up Austin Adams as well as Dan Aldavia, a couple more relievers from the Mariners. So yeah, they're ready to make a run at it. They're all like almost at that same level of competitiveness as the Dodgers. And if I were the Dodgers or any other team in the NL, and you go into division series or a 3-game series, and the 1-2-3 is going to be Paddock, Lamet, and Clevenger, dude, that's with that bullpen, that's scary, man.
It is, and of course, the last piece that they added, Mitch Moreland. He is a free agent after this season, but he's also 34 years old, so I don't know if you want him on your roster for that long in the first place. But, you know, a nice little piece to round out the batting order as a DH. Yeah, man. I mean, what do you think the mindset was going in the deadline? Do you think that it was kind of like, we're good now, let's fucking go for it and go for the division? Or I just feel like the Dodgers are just such an immovable force at the top that it's like, I just don't think the division's even worth it. Or I guess in a playoff series, it's a little bit different. I don't know. I don't understand their thinking necessarily to do it this season, especially after they're playing so well.
Yeah, and if you look across the league too, a lot of teams were pretty conservative for most of the part when it came to making some moves. But this is a thing. But this is probably the best way to handle the trade deadline is if you have the prospects, and we know the Padres are willing to spend, and when Clevenger does come up for that arbitration, they're going to pay him for it if he's still going to be performing at the level he had with Cleveland. And the Dodgers, they're going to be competitive throughout the whole time as well.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. I think this is arguably the best competition the Dodgers have had throughout this last... Well, the Giants, I would say throughout the last 10 years, but the Giants also had some crazy luck.
Yeah, it's hard to judge that kind of era with them because I feel like the Dodgers weren't as dominant back then.
Yeah.
So the division was always kind of up for grabs from 2010 and 2015. Whereas, like, if the Dodgers team was playing now, back in that time, like, it wouldn't even be a question. They were good, but
they were still winning the division.
Fucking stacked now. Yeah, I mean, regardless of how well Bellinger's year has been so far this year, they still have 2 of the top 5 players in the league on their team. So, like, that's saying a lot. Um, yeah, I mean they're a killer team. They're gonna be good for. I mean, Nola and Clevenger alone, like that just improves so much. To go along with Tatis, to go along Will Myers, who's having a great comeback year. Um, what's his face? Hosmer's playing pretty well. Machado's kind of like starting to pick it up a little bit. Like,
Dude, Machado's like he's going to be in MVP talks as well. It's going to be nuts.
yeah,
We talk about how with Cody and Betts, they're two of the top five in baseball. But like, dude, the way that they're both performing, Tatis and Machado are up there too.
yeah. It's the future's bright, and they gave up their future. We might see the effects in 8 years from now, but that's 8 years from now. So it's like, if you got it now, you might as well go for it. All right, so another winner I got for you. The Toronto Blue Jays. Ross Stripling from the Dodgers. Taijuan Walker from Seattle. So bolstering up the starting pitching. Robbie Ray from Arizona. So you got three solid potential ace starters. And Jonathan VR. I don't know. Jonathan VR, he's good. He's kind of like past his prime, but he's a solid little piece to add to the outfield.
He's a second, but he's got wheels.
Second base. Sorry.
Homeboy's got wheels.
Yeah, he's a little bit past his prime, but he's good. The pitching though is interesting. So okay, let's say the A's are not the 1 seed as we stand right now. They would be the 2 seed, I believe. Let's look at this. Yes, they would be the 2 seed. Had they be the 1 seed, they would have to play the Blue Jays. So who would you rather play as an A's fan? Toronto Blue Jays now, or the Minnesota Twins, or the Toronto Blue Jays after the trade deadline, or the Minnesota Twins, who, if the playoffs ended today, that's who the A's would play. That they would be the 7 seed, the Minnesota Twins.
It'd be interesting. I think I'd still go Toronto. I'd rather play them because because of like the inexperience of the lineup as a whole. These are all second year guys, at least their core guys with Bichette, Guerrero, and Biggio. And the rotation outside of Ryu, none of those guys have playoff experience as well, and that's some stuff that's really going to matter.
Yeah.
But if we play the Twins, just like us, they're also notorious for choking. So 2 negatives make a positive for somebody. But also, like, I don't want to have to deal with anything with that Twins lineup, especially with Donaldson coming back.
Yeah.
And with Kenta Maeda has been pitching great this year. Barrios has had his up and downs. But I would still rather face the Blue Jays. How about you?
I would too. Those 3 pitchers that they got, like, they're impressive, but none of them really like blow me away. Where it's like Chapman, Olsen, and those guys can't handle them. I'm pretty sure they could, and they could find a way. If it was like, Padres and the Clevenger at the top, I'd be like, oh fuck! Like in the first round, that's one game that's gonna be tough in a 3-game series. But yeah, it doesn't worry me too much.
And the thing is,
the Twins just offensive, their power that they have in the offense.
Dingers.
That worries me. Like, we could score 5 runs in 3 innings, but they could also come back and score 5 runs as well. So I'd be a little concerned.
And the thing is, too, that's smart on the Blue Jays end is all 3 of those guys are not having they're not having good years, really. Robbie Ray's sporting a 7.8 ERA. Ross Stripling's been pretty big of a letdown. And if these guys can somehow turn it around, then you're getting some pretty quality starters for practically nothing because of how low the market is on them.
Yeah. All right. Any more winners?
Not necessarily a winner for right now, but we got to talk about Seattle. Taylor Trammell
racking up the prospects.
Yeah, man. Like Taylor Trammell. All this talk about him is he's going to be kind of like the future. And And another move we didn't mention with Toronto is them getting Daniel Vogelbach from Seattle. But seeing how well Kyle Lewis has been this year, Kyle Lewis is probably going to be like the AL MVP or AL Rookie of the Year at the end of it. But yeah, they've got some like fast, like great outfield prospects out there in Seattle, and it's the smart thing to do because they know like the A's are going to be competitive going forward, playoff positions for the next couple years, as long as Chapman and Olsen are in there.
As long as Billy doesn't trade the farm in the offseason.
Yeah, right. Astros, they're going to be competitive as long as they can keep those core guys there for the next couple years. But they're lining up so when the Astros are done with their time and the A's are done with this core at the time, those guys are going to be up and ready. So kudos to them. They're actually playing smart. And honestly, if I had to pick like a number 2 like AL team, if that exists, it's Seattle. Always have to have some love for Seattle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're just so sad. I just don't care for them.
Well, I think growing up too with Ken Griffey Jr. followed by Ichiro, like 2 of the most popular players in our childhoods, man. Like you got to have a little bit of a soft spot for them.
I don't, but I get why you do. Taylor Trammell is number 59 on MLB's top prospects. 22 years old. He was drafted 2016, number 35 overall. Let's see. He's a fast runner. He's got some power. And he's a great defender apparently. He's got 55 on fielding, 55 on hitting, so impressive. Okay. I don't have any more winners. Do you have any more winners? That's pretty much it for me.
All of us, because trade deadline is tight.
It actually happened.
Yeah, we made it this far. But now this is our favorite part. The winners are always great to talk about, but now it's time to shit on some teams.
The losers. Okay, so I definitely have a loser for you right now.
Let's go.
And it's going to be very satisfying. The Astros, because they didn't do shit.
Woo!
And they need to so bad. But here's the thing. We talked about in the last podcast. They don't have anything to trade. They have nothing. So I guarantee they were pitching out maybe they were pitching out guys like Altuve with his massive contract, and he's hitting 1 something, and Springer, and got people and GMs around the league were just like, no, what? Why? Are you kidding me? He clearly can't hit unless cheating's involved. I don't know. It's just it was funny to watch, and they have no young pitching for the future. They're 2 senior citizens at the top of their rotation. I don't know how well it's going to last them in the coming years. It's just great to see the collapse of them right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, we talked about this before we recorded. They have some rookie guys who actually look good so far into the season.
Yeah.
I was about to call him Stan Javier, but I'm like, no, that's not Stan Javier.
That's a former A's player from
former Oakland great. Christian Javier, who's had a pretty solid season. You would have thought that because of this roles these guys have been having to play because of the injuries of the Verlander, that one of these guys on the chopping block, let's try to go get a Lance Lynn or try to go get, I don't know if Trevor Bauer was ever actually on the market, that they didn't do anything. And they're beat. Bregman's still hurt. Verlander's still hurt. There's really no progress of Verlander. So to me, this seems like kind of a white flag, especially with majority of the other competitive teams in the American League made moves.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Another team that did a whole lot of fucking nothing. The New York Yankees. That was very interesting considering where their starting pitching is at. They don't really need bullpen help. But you kind of talked about in the beginning of in the pre-show meeting, they have a lot of guys coming back. So it's kind of, but here's the thing, Julio. You said they have a lot of guys coming back. You named all these guys, Stanton, Judge, all these guys. But none of the guys you named are pitchers.
Yeah, that's
true. And what they need right now is starting pitching, and they don't have it. I would be, very happy if that was, the second-round opponent that we're playing. I would not be worried at all, especially playing in Yankee Stadium. Our guys could hit so well there.
Yeah, especially with, I know you're a little bummed about it because you drafted him, but Garrett Cole's starting to kind of get hit up a little bit. James Paxton is done for the year. Their rotation, what they thought was going to be, where some people were skeptic about it, but I think most experts and Yankee fans are they're going to be okay. They haven't lived up to it. Even if your number 2 guy is Masahiro Tanaka, who he's still solid. I'd be a little, as a Yankee fan, and I think somebody who's a big Yankee person, you would be a little nervous.
Yeah, 100%. And then I think their other guy is Jay Happ, who's like, what, 50 years old at this point? That guy is, like, I'm surprised he's still pitching in the league. Yeah,
now I'm just curious. I gotta look up his age. Oh shit, you're not wrong. He's 38.
He's 37.
He's gonna be 30. Oh my god, he's been playing for that long.
Yeah, bro, he's fucking old, dude.
Oh shit, I forgot he was on the Phillies World Series.
Yeah. He's only 1-1 this season. He's got a 4 ERA. It's not great.
Jordan Montgomery, terrible.
It's not great for him. Yeah. So I mean, and there was a decent amount of starting pitching on the market that they could have gone for. I'm just surprised they didn't try, especially with this really talented player and Clint Frazier just kind of like sitting on their bench getting a few at bats a game. Like they had something out there. And they have all these long-term contracts, so it's like they shouldn't be worried about the future because they locked up their future for so long. So I don't know. It's just I don't get what Cashman was thinking.
There's a lot of one of these days I'd like to get a Yankee fan. Shout out to the Schlatter brothers. They do a Yankees podcast with some friends. They call the Four Train Savages. Check it out. But if I want to hear a Yankees fan's legit future thoughts about this team, because it's like Aaron Judge is your franchise. The guy has not stayed healthy since 2017. Mm-hmm. You fucking paid a mountain of money for Giancarlo Stanton. Guess what? He can't stay healthy. Your rotation is average, and if this is what Garrett Cole is actually going to be, and he's actually just going to be like instead of being like an ace and a Cy Young favorite every year, he's just going to be like a top 15, top 20 pitcher. That's honestly, for how much money he got paid, that's not enough. So, especially when you see how good the Rays are right now. There should be a ton of concern if you're a Yankees
fan. They're young and good. That's the difference about that as well. Yeah, and I mean, like, you look at their other, like, role players. Like, Gary Sanchez is the most overhyped player in, like, the history of baseball. He's like the worst defensive catcher I've ever seen.
Would you say he's like the Kyle Kuzma of baseball?
Absolutely, 1,000%. He's the Kyle Kuzma. Of
like
baseball.
If he was on
1,000%.
any other team, but nobody would care and bat his eye. Damn, I'm proud of myself.
But because he plays for the Yankees, that was a good one. But because he plays for the Yankees, people are all over him. Look, he hit 30 home runs twice, but he hits like 230, and he's just a terrible defensive catcher. So like I don't understand it. And then they have Aaron Hicks. Aaron Hicks is fine. I mean, he hit 27 home runs back in 2018. Hasn't done much since then. And he's another guy who just has a history of injuries. That's probably why he hasn't done much. But it's just like there's a reason why they keep re-signing Brett Gardner to these like 1-year deals and bring him back, because they don't have any other choice. They have no one else to fill their roster up. Luke Voit looks fine. He showed, but this season is a classic Luke Voit situation. He shows these flashes, and then you look at his stats at the end of the season, and they're underwhelming. Like he's just he's just this big yoked dude, and like people think he's like
the best
this
first
insane player.
In baseball. Like, oh, get out
but
here.
he's not. He's not that good, or hasn't shown it at least. I would be worried if I was a Yankee fan. You're right. I would love to ask them. Maybe we can get them on and do like a merger episode, because I would love to find out what their feelings are about the future.
Yeah, it's.
I wouldn't be confident. I definitely wouldn't be confident.
No, not at all. And it especially after like that after that 2017 season, I was like, dude, the fucking Yankees are back. They're gonna be winning perennial World Series, and then they can't stay healthy. The rotation's just so middle of the pack. There's a lot of issues.
And dude, I hopped on the hype in calling out that I thought that they would be like an unmovable force at the top of the American League this season, at the beginning of the season, because I felt the same way that every baseball writer was. Like, they just have too much talent. But then the same thing happens to them the past 3 years. Their main stars just fucking get hurt, and they can't, and they struggle a little bit. It's just
maybe they just need to hire like a new like athletic trainer. If that's the problem, that also
maybe
too
that's what it is. Yeah,
when you have two like titans of men with like Judge and Stan, where dudes are like 6'5", like 6'5", 6'7", like 250, like
Yeah.
Like, we don't see that in baseball. Like, how the hell do people take care of themselves when you're that huge? In
Yeah.
baseball standards, that is. So,
Yeah.
who knows?
That's literally just wear and tear on muscle. Like that's what the sport is: the wear and tear on the same muscles over and over and over every day.
Ready? Hot take.
All right, let's.
Hot take. Has there been a more overrated sports market over this decade than it always has been? The New York sports market. What have they done? That market has done over the last 10 years that warrants any of that attention.
Well, the Rangers won a couple years ago.
And then
And then the Yankees in 2009.
Yeah, that was 11 years ago.
And then the Giants in 2012. Yeah. I mean,
the Mets went in 15.
I mean, two of their franchises are literally the joke of the leagues that they're in. So the Knicks are the Knicks are probably the joke of all sports. They're probably the worst ran, pathetic joke of all of sports. The Jets are kind of like the joke of the NFL.
You can also say the Mets are kind of the joke of baseball.
I mean, but the Mets aren't really the joke of baseball. The way that they're managed is the joke of baseball because they're terrible, but every like 10 years they make like a World Series run. And you're like, where the fuck did the Mets come from? Like, that type of thing. So it's just their ownership is bad, which is part of the reason why they're
New York,
new
awesome city,
but
overrated sports teams.
But the Knicks, I mean, can we just talk about the Knicks, how pathetic they are for a second? Because they are just a joke. All right, anyway, move on. Sorry, I had to get my little next.
Speaking of sports markets, this one is a kind of an not necessarily a loser, but it is a good talking point. It's the Dodgers. They stayed put. They didn't make any moves.
Except for Stripling, getting rid of Stripling.
Yeah, getting rid of Stripling, which is he was almost shipped in this last offseason. But at the same time, Walker Buehler's coming back, and their lineup is so good. How can you make it better? They
don't need any moves.
Yeah,
they don't need.
Yeah,
anything.
like
they made the biggest move that they could in the offseason, getting Mookie Betts. Like they're good.
And then like Gavin Lux, after like a weird start of the year of him being like one of the top prospects in baseball and not being on the roster, finally got called up. But for the sake of like having to think of a loser, I guess they kind of were. But at the same time, they didn't need to do anything. So
I mean, but nice in luxury. That standard, if that's the standard, then any team that doesn't make a move is a loser, which I don't think that's fair. But because they're a contender, we have to assume that they're going to make a move. I don't think. I mean, it's not the rest of the league's fault that they were just so well front office run in the offseason that they made the moves that they needed to in the offseason.
The one thing that is going to be a little bit of a concern, and talked with a couple Dodger friends. Shout out to Ivan and Nick. But when you get into the playoffs, obviously Buehler, Kershaw 1-2, fantastic. That 3 spot's going to be tough. Julio Urias has been pretty shaky. Dustin May, same thing. And then Tony Goslin's going to be in the rotation now. You have some kind of unstable guys in that spot. Whereas they were one of the teams that were supposedly in running to get Lance Lynn. I think you would feel super confident as a Dodger fan if that's going to be your number 3 guy. We could also kind of trash.
Point. One thing that's always been impressive about them has been their rotation.
And I think that's another thing we could really trash. Another team we want to trash after Lotta is the Rangers. Dude, what were you doing not moving him? You could have.
Yeah. I mean, this goes hand. Can we combine it? Because this goes hand in hand with the Reds. Like, what the fuck were the Reds doing? Dealing half of their guys. But yeah, Lance Lynn, the best pitcher in the American League, and you just stay put, and he's off contract at the end of the season. I mean,
I think he's got 2022. He's got next year.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 21, bro. Here, I'll look it up while we do this. But so the Texas Rangers they have 13 wins, 22 losses.
Bad.
Their winning percentage is .371. They are 9 games behind the A's in the AL West. Let's look at the postseason picture.
2022.
They are. Oh, it is 22. Yeah. Okay, they are tied for. Oh no, they're in second in the American League for dead last. They are. Yeah. It's inexcusable.
It sounds like, well, because the whole purpose of with how they had it, I will never forget their tweet where they're like, "Who wants to face these three guys?" And it was a picture of before the season started, and it was like Corey Kluber, Lance Lynn, and Mike Minor.
Yeah.
And then Corey Kluber got hurt, and then Mike Minor's not on the
Mike
team
Minor
anymore.
is trash. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Unfortunately,
yeah, but I think if I was the Rangers ownership, I think the mindset would be once we're in the post-COVID world, hopefully by next season, then we're going to need to start selling some tickets in this new charcoal grill that we call a stadium. and, and it's like having an ace here, at least to start the season next year, along with whatever you want to call Joey Gallo. Hey, that's enough. But
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it was a good move. I think they should have traded him, especially. And there was like rumors of like Gallo was on the market and Odor, and you already mentioned it. But yeah, the Reds. The Reds aren't going anywhere, man. You have
you have Trevor Bauer. He's literally on this is even worse with him than Lynn. He has an expiring contract this offseason. Get what you fucking can. Don't ask for the world. Get what you can out of him. Like just so stupid. So stupid.
And they're struggling. They're not a good team this year either.
To be fair, they are kind of in the running. Kind of. They are 3 games behind the Giants for the 8th seed, so maybe they can make a run, but it's like I don't know. It's not promising.
Yeah.
And once you get there, okay, you go against the Dodgers in the first round. I mean, I don't know. And they made what? No moves, I think.
They got Archie Bradley. They got Archie Bradley.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, neat. And I think they got another reliever, but that's the kind of the downside of having this 8-team playoff scenario.
Yeah.
It's good because you got a team like the Rays who are like, hey, screw it, let's go for it. But then you're going to have a team that a little delusional like the Reds who are saying, hey, we've been playing bad, but guess what? We got 3 weeks left and we're still in it. Whereas you're going to kind of screw yourselves. You're going to shoot yourselves in the foot in the future because you had an opportunity to ship somebody and pretty much get whatever you want out of him, and you did it. And now you're probably not going to be able to afford him in the offseason.
Yeah, I think we said all that we need to say about the Reds and the Rangers. I don't understand it. More the Rangers and the Reds because at least the Reds are somewhat in like fighting distance with a month left, but it's just just
like with everything else with sports in the world. This is a super unprecedented deadline. We don't know.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just like stubbornness, you know. Like I just don't understand it. All right, so let's go to some additional moves that were made. This one was kind of an interesting one. So the Baltimore Orioles opening day starter Tommy Milone was traded to the Braves. They kind of settled in terms of starting pitching. They needed it. And they could have gone after guys like Clevenger and Robbie Ray and those guys, but they settled for Tommy Milone and former Oakland A's great. Is that what you're going to say, Julio?
I was going to say, dude, who would have thought 7-8 years ago out of that rotation of AJ Griffin, Tommy Milone, Brett Anderson, Jared Parker, that like the guy that's still pitching is Tommy Milone. Like Brett
Anderson's still in the league, right?
And Trevor Cahill. Oh no, Trevor Cahill was gone. Was he?
Trevor Cahill's gone.
He was already in Arizona or whatever. But like, damn, good for you, Tommy.
And Brett Anderson is on the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah. Kudos. Good job, Tommy.
Yeah, good for you, Tommy. You know, he was always kind of interesting because he always had like good promising talent, whereas like he was consistent, but there was nothing like stand out about him. He was never like a stud where you're like, oh damn. Okay.
Yeah, even back then he was the number 4 guy in the rotation, 3 or 4
I think
guy.
his last year, but his first year, I think him and Jared Parker led off the playoff series in 2012. I think it was Parker 1 and then Malone was 2.
Oh yeah, because Cologne was suspended.
Yeah.
No, it was actually
Brett
you're right.
Anderson wasn't.
Brett
Brett
Anderson
Anderson
was
was
3.
hurt.
He was
and
3.
then he was healthy right before Game 3, so he pitched Game 3.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Another team that made some moves, the New York Mets, traded for Robinson Chirinos from Texas, as well as Todd Frazier.
Welcome back.
To go back to New York, apparently, which was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, they could use a catcher. They're in the playoff hunt, so any little thing definitely helps. Let's see. Right now, they would be the where are they? Why can't I find them on here? Oh, they're 3 games back as well, just like the Reds, but they're in the hunt, so makes sense that they would go for someone. And then the Marlins traded for Starlin Marte. All these teams, by the way, traded prospects. Starlin Marte from Cincinnati.
Arizona.
The Marlins, or Arizona, sorry. The Marlins are the 6th seed currently, so that's going to be a huge help for them. Starlin Marte is a spark plug at the top of your lineup. He's got speed. He gets on base at least once a game. He's a solid fucking player. I loved him back in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Couple things before we jump over to the next topic, at least when it comes to this trade. The Starling Marte trade reminds me a lot of Matt Holliday, because Starling Marte was in Arizona for a month and a half.
Yeah.
And then they trade after Arizona traded for him in the offseason, and then he was gone. So shades of Matt Holliday with Oakland.
Interesting.
But 2, can you name a more disappointing team this year than arguably the Diamondbacks? The Diamondbacks had a pretty...
They showed some sparks. Man.
Pretty good year last year, despite being, 19 games back from the Dodgers. But they finished 84 or 86 and 75 or something like that.
Yeah.
They're Tel Marte looked like a superstar. The rotation was coming together. They trade
Escobar looked good last year too.
Yeah, Eduardo Escobar looked awesome. They trade for Starling Marte. They signed Mad Bum. And as of right now, they have the 3rd worst record in the National League.
Yeah, what do you think that is? You think it's chemistry? You think it's the manager? They're just not into his style? I wonder what the fuck it is, because they have a good talent on there.
Yeah, I think maybe...
And they still have, Jake Lom. They still have, some of these other guys that they kind of came up with.
I think it was just a regression. Maybe they just had a lot of lucky wins last year. Who knows? Because even there were Zach Gallen's been awesome this year too. A lot of these pitchers regressed. Who knows? It might.
That's got to be the main thing.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see them give up on the Marte experiment so quick, as well as Robbie Ray, who's been there for a while, then Archie Bradley's been there for a while. Yeah, and it's weird times there in Arizona. It is most of the time.
I'm curious about what Marte's contract situation was, because here I'm looking it up right now. Because if he's off contract at the end of the season, then I definitely don't blame them for making that move, because I mean it's the same thing that we talked about with he is off contract, so that makes sense. I mean he's an expiring contract in 2021.
Player option, the buyout.
Yeah. So that makes a lot more sense that he was the only guy that moved. But yeah, I mean, definitely. But here's the thing. They play in the toughest division in baseball, in my opinion. A lot of good teams there. Giants are playing a lot better than people expected, thanks to the MVP candidate race of Mike Yastrzemski, who's on my fantasy team. Shout out, Mike. Yes. Dodgers being the best team in baseball, and then the Rockies just... keep plugging away. They've been... What are you talking about? I thought they were playing well.
They do. They lost the other night.
They've fallen off a little bit.
They're definitely... They're not the same Rockies that we saw at the beginning of the season.
But they're only 1 game behind the Giants.
Stupid 8.
All right. Cool. I think that'll do it for around the league. So let's get into the A's
Let's
move.
be selfish.
So,
let's talk about the A's.
yeah, if you've been
That's why
under
you're
a
here.
rock, exactly. If you've been under a rock the past week, the first move of the A's made, they traded the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Franklin Barreto, the A's top prospect for a good 4 years now, second baseman, shortstop, outfielder, for Tommy La Stella, established, solid second baseman, top of the lineup type of guy. Julio, your thoughts on the move?
Love it.
Yeah.
What the biggest problem the A's have with their offense, which is pretty consistent, is one, they strike out a ton, and unless they hit home runs, they're kind of stagnant. And Tommy La Stella is is an awesome contact hitter to have at second base. He's hitting .272 this year. He was an all-star last year with the Angels, and he's got some pop. He hit, I believe, like 20 home runs last year.
Yeah.
He has that pop when you need to.
Solid on the defensive side, too.
Absolutely. There's not too much of any major gaps with the A's lineup in terms of everyday play. And the one that was there was second base. And now you have a guy who's a former All-Star who's been a part of a World Series team with the Cubs back in 2016. And we have with Ramon struggling a little bit and with Marcus coming back from injury, you have a guy that we can easily plug at the top of the lineup 1 or 2 hole while these guys get back to health and get back to hitting.
So one thing that me and Julio kept on talking about on Monday, going back and forth texting, so when we got La Stella, which was on Saturday?
Friday
Friday.
night, yeah.
We saw an opportunity where we thought that Chad Pinder could have been a trade piece in a coming trade for a starting pitcher, because with La Stella, that frees up second base, and that will put kind of Tony Kemp into that like general utility role, because for those of you who don't know, Tony Kemp is a utility player. He doesn't only play second base, he plays outfield. He can play third. He can also play shortstop if we need him to. He's got a quick release throw, so he's not as strong a thrower, but he can play those positions. And he's under contract until 2024. So Chad Pinder, established Major League Baseball player, we thought could be a nice trade piece. They decided not to do it. I think the Marcus Semien injury was a part of that, because they do need someone to cover shortstop for at least a couple games, from what Bob Melvin said today in his press conference. But yeah, I mean, it just solidifies things at second. It gives some of the outfield guys some more rest, gives some of the infield guys some more rest. It's an upgrade, and you can't be upset with an upgrade. It's a rental. His contract's up in 2021, but I mean, they're trying to go for it this season. So you got to upgrade where you can, and that was really the only major hole in the entire team. Like, we talked about starting pitching a lot last week, but it's not necessarily a hole. We just thought that we could improve, where like there is a hole at second base. There's been there for 2 years since Jed Lowry left, and we needed someone to try and like fill that hole. And with La Stella, we do that.
Now, the other side, we got Barreto, who Chris and I were going back and forth all day about this today.
I wanted to do a rant segment, but it's best that I don't.
Because he was the last part of arguably the worst trade in the Billy Bean era of baseball, which was he was the last part of the Josh Donaldson trade. And it seemed like they were clutch. I got a new analogy.
Can I just say this? Can I just
go
real
quick?
Yeah.
Go
for the listeners, this is what the Josh Donaldson trade was. We traded the 2015 MVP, so what would have been the MVP of the league, easily our best player, for Kendall Graveman, starting pitcher, Brett Lawrie, infielder, whatever the fuck he did, Sean Nolan, don't even know who the fuck that is.
Oh, God, forgot about that guy.
And Franklin Barreto. So, all for naught. And I just want to say one thing. Last year the entire media praised the A's for the Jeff Samardzija trade, but they're forgetting about this trade, which was fucking horrendous.
It's funny. There was a Susan Slusser had said that when they talked about this trade and actually parting with Barreto, Billy Beane actually did mention, he's like, yeah, it was kind of hard because he was a part of the trade that I screwed up. So Billy Beane's on board of like, yeah, I fucked that trade up.
Good. He should be.
But I was gonna say, it feels like they held on to him for so long. It reminded me a lot of when Derek Barton was still on the A's team, even though he was just not a good at first baseman. But it was kind of like the, you know what, you were a part of the Tim Hudson or the Mark Mulder trade.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure we get everything out of you. Do you see Barreto having a future? He's still like super young. I want to say he's only like 22, 23. He's 24.
He's 24 years old.
Do you still see a future?
Yeah. He's going to be a solid Major League Baseball player. I don't think he'll be the star that we thought he was, which we thought he was going to be better than Chapman and Olsen. We thought he was going to be our best player. I don't think he'll be that, but he's going to be a solid MLB player. He'll hit around 260, 20 home runs. They don't really steal bases in baseball anymore, so probably not that many stolen bases. But 5 years ago, probably 20 stolen bases, 60 RBIs. He'll be that kind of guy, but I don't think he'll be the stud anymore. I just don't. But I think it was worth it to get what we needed for this run.
Yeah.
And we'll figure out second base next year. If anything else, Tony Kemp goes back there.
Yep.
Great.
And it'll be pretty interesting what's going to happen for him with the Angels too, because Andrelton Simmons' contract is going to be coming up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Joe Maddon.
Maybe they'll go back to short. Is that kind of what you're
yeah,
implying?
It's a possibility. It's pretty much this next month is just going to be like, hey, what can you do kind of thing. Like we're gonna, because Joe Maddon said in a press conference earlier today that he's like, we're going to play him everywhere. We're pretty much gonna.
And what's great about him is he'll get to hit every day.
Yeah.
And work on his hitting. He wasn't getting that for us because here's the thing. He was part of a plan where Billy Beane thought that like around now, 2020, this is when the talent would develop and we would be good. This is when Chapman and Olsen and Franklin Brett will all come up at the same time and be good. Chapman and Olsen were just better than earlier than they expected. They were like several years early. 2017, all of a sudden they're just fucking showing up. Marcus Semien turned it around, and he became one of the best shortstops in baseball. So it's like these are things that we can't handle, and because of these guys being so good and being so good so fast and being competitive in a playoff race, you can't afford to develop these guys in the major leagues and get them 4 at-bats a game. You have to like play your best guys.
Absolutely.
So it's unfortunate it just didn't work out with him, and we wish him the best, but
I don't.
It is
I'm
what
just
it
kidding.
is. Whoa,
I like to speed, and this is honestly kind of to go back to your point where like we didn't have the time for him, or the A's didn't have the time for him to get 4 at-bats a game because of how competitive they've been these last 2 years.
Yeah.
And with him going to the Angels, where the Angels are in dead last, they traded Brian Goodwin to the Reds, opened up an outfield spot. Justin Upton's just taken up the bench. There's going to be a ton of potential for him to play in this next month. So, again, hopefully he can get some of that potential that we thought he had. But again, best of luck. You're playing with Mike Trout. Hopefully you can teach you a thing or two.
Yeah. So the other move the A's made, a little bit more of a minor move, no pun intended. They traded 2 prospects, Marcus Smith, an outfielder, and Dustin Harris, an infielder, for Mike Minor, starting pitcher. Had a great season last year, pretty awful this season. As all of you A's fans know, we already have a pretty full, pretty good starting rotation. From what Bob Melvin said in his press conference today, it's looking like he's going to be mainly used as we have a lot of doubleheaders coming up, which we'll talk about after the break. He's going to be used as kind of like the 6th guy in the rotation for all these doubleheader games to make sure that the starting pitchers get their rest. Also, he has experience in the bullpen, so we'll probably see him as a long reliever in the bullpen down the stretch. Julio, I know you were pretty disappointed at the move at the time because we both wanted Clevenger or Bauer, and we didn't. But, after La Stella, if they would have made no moves, I would have been satisfied. this was just kind of like, and we didn't really give up much. I mean, Marcus Smith was the number 22 ranked prospect in our system according to MLB.com. So, it's just a nice little additional piece. I don't really have too much to say about it. We'll see how he does in these doubleheader games we got coming up. But if you have more to say, you can go ahead. But I don't really have much more to say about it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, but a lefty. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime we can take another lefty, well, the more the merrier. But yeah, he has not had a good year at all this year. But I think a couple things that we got to be aware of, specifically with the A's, they love bringing in these like project pitchers who have kind of not had the best years elsewhere. All of a sudden, they come to Oakland, and the last couple months of the year, pitch really well, get yourselves a nice contract. Even look the last couple years, Mike Feiners, Tanner Roark, Homer Bailey, all guys who, one, were not on good teams, and their records reflected that, and you can tell right now with Mike Minor being 0-5, and two, they weren't in the best ballparks of pitching. So being in the Coliseum, huge. That's gonna be a huge dividend.
But dude, we talked about this last episode. Like, we don't need that. Like, our rotation is better than it's ever been. So it's like the veteran who struggled this season but has a past of playing good doesn't help us right now because he doesn't even make the rotation, which he doesn't. He doesn't make the rotation. Like, especially with Manaea playing well, like, pitching well again. Like, our rotation is more or less up to the standards of what we expected it to be going into the season. So it's like either we needed the blow-away guy or don't even bother. But because we didn't really give up much for him, I guess at the end of the day, it's worth it.
Now, a couple things. You brought up a good point that, the rotation is more or less going to be set when we get into the playoff run. The three pitchers is going to be an interesting point where you could be competitive with that. But if you look at who his counterpart would be as like the number 6 pitcher in the rotation, it's Daniel Mengden, and that's easily a massive upgrade over Daniel Mengden.
Yeah,
you have a guy who's
100%.
Who's been a veteran pitcher, and another huge thing too, because Bomel had mentioned that like there's a possibility that like he's going to be coming out of the bullpen. We're going to be starting him, using him for a little bit of everything, because he has that experience. He initially came up with the Braves. He I believe he had Tommy John. I'm not sure what injury he had, but he was out of the league for a few years, and then he signed with the Royals as a reliever in 2017, and he was awesome. He pitched 65 games at a 2.5 ERA, and that he was so well, it led to him getting an actual starting job with the Rangers. Chris, you already mentioned last year he was an all-star with the Rangers, but on top of that, he had a 7.8 WAR, and he was a top 10 of the Cy Young ballot. So the guy still has it. It's just, one, it doesn't help when you have such a bad team like the Rangers have been here.
Yeah.
There, and I think just maybe learning to pitch in that new stadium, who knows? But the more I've thought about it, the more I've actually really liked this move.
And one encouraging thing about it that Celester reported, because she talked to, I guess, Mike Meyer on the phone after he got traded. Bob Melvin, when he talked to him and said, like, you could be in, like, a relief pitcher role, he was very enthusiastic. He said, like, I'm in for what I need. I'm excited. I'm just happy to be on a winning team. So let's go. And going back, La Stella, should we say the quote that he said when he that he told Celester as well when she interviewed him? He said, Celester asked him, how's it feel to be traded to the A's? And he said, it's amazing. And she said, why is that? He's like, because I don't have to play the A's now, and I can be on a winning team and go to the playoffs. I thought that was just such a funny quote. So both guys are very ecstatic to be here. So, I'm excited to see him play. And especially we're going to get into this more after the break. Marcus Semien being injured, La Stella is a very important part of the batting order. So on that note, we don't have a featured segment this week because we decided that our featured segment is the trade deadline talk, which was a lot of it. Also, we didn't have any really games played this week, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the 2 games that were played this past week, as well as preview the coming week, week and talk about the doubleheaders we got coming back. So stick around, and we'll be right back. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Again, it's going to be a shorter second half of the break because we don't have a featured segment. We're just going to go through this past week's schedule and preview the coming schedule with doubleheaders. So, this past week, we had 2 games, a doubleheader, against the Houston Astros on Saturday the 29th. We lost both those games. Game 1, 2-4. Both these were in Houston, by the way. And second game was 3-6. It was a very poor offensive showing, which was extremely frustrating to watch, which has been kind of the case for a lot of our losses this year. I don't know. I mean, Bassett lost the first game. He gave up 4 runs, but I mean, I feel like he's still was very consistent in the way that he was pitching. He only gave up 6 hits. Just kind of like a bad day for him. His ERA didn't raise too much. The second one was a Mike Fiers start, and that was brutal.
Dumpster fires.
Yeah. Tough one to swallow, especially when it's the only 2 games of the week. Oh no, wait. I had the wrong start. Sorry. That was Montas. That was a Montas start.
I'll still say it. Dumpster fires.
5 runs on 6 hits.
Oh, man.
Gave up a home run, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. All 5 earned. Not sure what's going on with him. Sorry, I totally mixed the days up. I forgot that was his loss. Laureano had a home run, though. That's
and
cool.
La Stella, his first game, that was the second game, he had an RBI. So sacrifice RBI, so there you go.
Yes, exactly. I don't know, Julio. I don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah, it was such a small sample size. And in case you didn't know, the reason why we did have a doubleheader on Saturday was because the Friday game against the Astros was on strike as a part of the baseball, like MLB's alliance with the Black Lives Matter movement when it came to the police shooting last week of Jacob Blake. And the Astros wanted to be a part of it because they had the day off on Thursday, so they did that. And then
that was also Jackie Robinson Day and R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
T'Challa forever. But then we wake up bright Sunday morning, and guess what?
Yeah.
We have a positive COVID case.
Yeah. But that all that news was weird. So they tested positive on Sunday morning. Monday morning, no one tested positive. So everybody's like, maybe it was a false positive. And then Tuesday morning, someone tested positive. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What a weird world we live in.
Yeah. We're honestly freaking count our blessings the fact that it didn't blow up. This could have been so much worse. It could have been a Marlins Cardinals situation, and thank God it's not. That
we don't know who it is. We don't know if it was a staff member or a player.
Yeah. The odds are we're probably never gonna find out because it has to deal with public health. But if you all of a sudden see a player go on the DL the next couple days, then we'll probably assume through that. But yeah, honestly, what's kind of your insight on this? I know I'd rather this would happened earlier, but because of how cautious the protocols are now and how teams are being more aware of it, it also is kind of smart that they did it now because it's like, all right, cool, everybody instantly isolate, don't see anybody, and then we'll see how this goes.
I mean, I'd rather they just don't do it.
Well, that,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'd rather
that
they
too.
just don't get. I don't know. Bob Melvin said in his press conference today that everybody was being responsible, and it's just like, all right, cool, take that with a grain of salt, because like, how do you fucking know? You don't know what they're doing back at home. I don't know. I mean, I'm more disappointed in the losses than I am the postponement.
Yeah.
Because that just means that we got more A's baseball coming up in the coming weeks, which is cool. Yeah. A lot of doubleheaders, like we were alluding to the entire episode, a lot of doubleheaders. But I just the losses are what bum me out, and mainly because for the listeners, we're not picking an essential tailgate tool of the week or player of the week this week because we only had 2 games for the player of the week. An essential tailgate tool, again, we only had 2 games, so we're just gonna carry it over to next week. My essential tailgate tool of the week was Frankie Montas, and he just had a shit fucking start. So it's like, I don't know, it's just fucking sucks. It's just. So LaStella came in game 2, so we don't necessarily know exactly what we got out of him yet. But the offense is just like, it's just so fucking hot and cold, and it drives me crazy. Like, is it going to be cold when we get into the playoffs? Is it going to be hot? I don't know what it is if these guys just like rally around each other, but like, they only got 6 hits in each game. Exactly 6 hits in both games.
Now, you talking about LaStella right now, I just kind of have a light bulb effect. I think something that's really smart, which is any other year this wouldn't have happened. The fact that both trades came from in division is really smart, considering that's all you're playing is your divisional foes.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Good point.
But
but it's the Rangers and the Angels, so it's like that.
No, but like they've still played the Astros all these years.
Yeah, I mean wins for us too. Yeah,
exactly, and they've. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, so like opponents. It's smart. It's on the long term it's smart, but yeah, just Saturday was not fun. Long story.
No, Saturday fucking sucked.
That was not a fun couple games.
And like especially like I'm looking at the box score when I leave my house a little bit to go out to do something. I was at like a picnic. And I'm like,
socially
okay,
distanced.
cool. Like, we're yeah. And I was like, oh, we're out. Like, we're only down by like a few runs. Like maybe we can or 2 runs in the first game. Maybe we can come back, go to the 7th inning. I was like, oh, the game's over. Fuck, that's right. The game's over. Like like shit like that. I don't know.
That was another point I wanted to make too, which I believe they were talking about this on the Ace Plus podcast. I can't remember if it was Dave Feldman or Susan Slusser brought it up. Is that's kind of a scary situation that we're going to be having so many double headers over the next few weeks, knowing that the A's don't hit well off of starters. When their offense really clicks, it's against their other team's relievers. So there's possibilities where it's like, if we have a starter that goes out for, let's say Seattle, and they go 6 strong, and they don't get a bullpen until the 7th, and if they close it out, then that's game. So that's gonna be a little scary.
Do you want to talk about that now? Do you want to talk preview the week, and because we have a doubleheader coming this week?
Yeah, we have a doubleheader, but before we kind of jump into the preview of the week and all that stuff, again, we had 2 games, so we don't really have a players of the last week, and we couldn't really watch A's baseball, so we didn't really know what to do. If you followed us on Twitter, we saw we were making kind of jokes like, I wonder what Matt Chapman's doing today. So instead of picking up a player of the week, Chris, what'd you spend your time this past? What were you watching?
So I watched a lot of basketball, which was awesome.
Great games
because
tonight.
They were so intense. We had 2 Game 7s in the first round. Last night, Tuesday, the first was Denver Nuggets versus Utah Jazz. It was Jamal Murray versus Donovan Mitchell, which was basically a preview of 2 of the future star guards in the West battling it out. And then today was OKC versus Houston, which was the weirdest fucking game ever, the way it ended. That's what I've been watching, man. Just watching basketball, which has been this kind of story of the past couple months.
Yeah.
Along with A's baseball. And then also, I've been watching this documentary on Netflix about Frank Sinatra and his life. And it is fascinating, and I've been enjoying it so much. And I have never really watched music documentaries that much lately.
Interesting. What's it called?
I highly
Do you know
recommend
the name?
it. I think it's just called Sinatra. It's a PBS documentary,
and it's on.
It's on Netflix. They've been promoting it a lot. I would highly recommend it.
All Sinatra, All or Nothing. Oh, okay.
That's it. And it's like one of those things where like you think from popular culture and movies and whatnot, you know a lot about Frank Sinatra, but you don't know a lot about Frank Sinatra, so you should watch it and know a lot of it, because he was like, I don't even know if I could make an equivalent of him. He was the star, music and movies wise, of the 40s and 50s. Like he was it. Like he was Elvis before Elvis, basically.
I guess if you can say, if there is a
Drake. He was Drake.
damn, no, I wasn't gonna go. I was gonna say Donald Glover.
Donald Glover's albums are good, but they're like his albums were like they were constantly number one.
Hey,
on top of him being a fucking just insane movie star.
but he made Redbone. Classic.
Okay.
I watched
Maybe Donald Glover, yeah, but his movies weren't that good. Like, I don't know. Like he won one Oscar like from I think Eternity and Back or something like that. But like his movies weren't good. They were just like like
it was probably him just calling women broads or something.
yeah. Like that's why a lady is a tramp. Like it's I don't know how to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you? What did you watch?
Hard Knocks. Super interesting season this year.
Catch up, dude. I'll watch that tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been. Seeing through
tomorrow.
the SoFi Stadium looks awesome. They just did the first round. Yeah, watching that.
Dude, I've driven by it quite a bit. The par 3 course that I play over here on the west side, I have to drive by it every time, and it's fucking sick. It looks sick.
That's
Sorry.
I definitely gotta check it out once it does open. Watched a couple of animated shows I'm really into. Harley Quinn on HBO Max. Fucking
interesting.
It's hilarious, dude. Like I think you would be really into it. And I also watched a anime classic, Samurai Champloo. It's been pretty awesome.
Okay.
It's fantastic music, great story. But the biggest turd of the week was on top of watching the A's lose a doubleheader on Saturday. I watched the New Mutants at the Rose Bowl Drive-In, and it was total trash. It was
underwhelming.
It was exciting for the sake that I got to see a new movie on a big screen.
They've been making that movie for like 4 years.
The first trailer came out 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's insane.
it was doomed to fail, but hey, I can't be too mad. I got to see a movie on the big screen, and that was our life without Oakland A's baseball. It was really sad. It was pathetic, and we're excited. Please, no more positive tests.
Exactly. All right. So the coming week. So tomorrow, Friday. Wow. 2 days from now, Friday the 4th, we have a series against the Padres. 6:40 Pacific time. On Friday, and then Saturday's a day game, 1:10. Sunday, another day game, 1:10. Then we play the Astros at home on Monday, 6:10 start time on that day. And then we have a doubleheader, one of our famous doubleheaders we've been talking about, on Tuesday. First game starts at 3:10. The next game will start, I think it's an hour and a half typically after.
Yeah, it's fluctuating, but I'd imagine it's probably going to be like 7.
Yeah, so that day, if you're working out from home and you're bored, you can watch A's baseball all day. And then they finish off the series on Wednesday, 6:10 start time, and then a day game, classic day, Thursday game at 12:40. We have another doubleheader the following week, but we'll go over that next week. We have 2 doubleheaders the following week, actually. Wow, against the Rangers and the Mariners. Sorry, go ahead.
A couple things to point out for this Padres series. I believe we're going to be missing out on Clevenger. He's making his Padres debut.
Thank God.
Yeah. He's making his Padres debut tomorrow. So, and I will probably be getting like Paddock on Saturday. And then Denison Lamet, who's been pretty awesome this year, we'll probably be seeing him Sunday. But tomorrow, or Friday, yes, technically tomorrow, we're going to have one of the pitching matchups, or batter pitching matchups I've been looking forward to for months, and that's going to be Jesus Luzardo against Fernando Tatis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially, again, if you follow us on Twitter, if you don't already, please make sure you follow the Town Takeout on Twitter. Fernando Tatis actually had a Jesus Luzardo t-shirt. So he knows the truth. He knows.
No way. That's so great.
Yeah, so it's like, this is going to be a lot of fun to watch that match.
Yeah, I mean, you're going against 2 guys that could potentially be rookies of the year. for their prospective leagues. So
I know
definitely
for
something to look forward
Tatis
to.
was
He's a rookie, bro.
no, he was a rookie last year. I don't think he won it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, just for the listeners, heads up, the Saturday game this Saturday, September 5th. That game will be on FS1. It's going to be a nationally televised game, so you will not be able to watch it on NBC Sports California. Just so you know, in case you're looking around on your TV and you can't find it, it's going to be on Fox Sports. So national TV game, which is great. Two of like the most popular teams in the league this season. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and another couple of interesting tidbits too is for this Astro series coming up. For the first game of the doubleheader, the A's will technically be the road team. So
oh yeah, that's right.
yeah, it's going to be really weird where they're going to be playing in Oakland with the A's as the road team. Let's see how a lot of teams.
Yeah, I wonder how the in-stadium experience is going to be like that.
Yeah, a lot of teams in the past have actually played into it, so we'll see how they do it. And this is also kind of the benefit. Instead of having a 3-game series in Houston, even though there's no fans, the A's play tremendously better at home. So this is, at the end of the day, it's kind of a win.
It's kind of a benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And then, so essential tailgate tools of the week. Again, we're rolling them over. Mine was Frankie Montas. Hopefully he bounces back. I think he'll have just one start this coming week, so we'll see. And then, Julio, what was yours again?
I had the fringe bullpen guys as a whole, so
that's right.
It was Jordan Weems, Lou Trevino, and Daniel Mangden. So, again, just want to reiterate my point that one of these guys will probably be the odd man out. Now that we got Mike Minor, who will probably be getting some time in the bullpen, and then
we might see Mike Minor this week, actually.
Yeah, they're saying for sure he's going to be pitching. He's going to be pitching one of those days, especially with two doubleheaders coming up the next couple weeks. And AJ Puck's going to be coming back pretty soon. I know he had just been doing some live pitching this past weekend. So just keep an eye out for that.
Cool. I think that's going to do it for this week. We have a very exciting guest coming on next week, so make sure you tune in for that. We are very excited about it, at least. We think the listeners will appreciate it as well. So make sure you tune in next week. Yes, Julio?
Now, before we forget about talking about this too, we did mention, we kind of alluded to it, and we call us a little tracked about this. We got a bunch of doubleheaders coming up.
Yeah.
And there, so if you look at the September calendar, we have over the next 2 weeks. So today is September 2nd, which time flies. But over the next 2 weeks, we have 3 doubleheaders. We have one against Houston. We have one against the Rangers. And then we have one against Seattle. We'll talk a little bit more about the Seattle ones as we get a little bit closer.
Next week we got 2, remember?
Yeah. But then, the last weekend of the month, we'll be playing Seattle again. And there'll be one more doubleheader. There's a possibility that, depending on where we are in the standings, that game might not even happen. But there's an interesting stat that it's been kind of going around Twitter when it comes to all these doubleheaders. They're scheduled to play 3 different doubleheaders in 3 different cities over 7 days, from September 8th to September 14th. Are scheduled to play 10 games over that time span, which is the most games the A's will be playing over a 7-day stretch since 1966.
Oh my God.
So
that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I think
expect to see a lot of guys taking a couple games off, or throughout that stretch.
Especially with Marcus recovery.
That's when Pinder and Kemp are gonna be really important.
We got Vachine out there. He's a picking Vachine or Machine. But do you think that was kind of again, the trade for Mike Minor was a pretty minor move, but do you think as soon as they saw that, because I think they made the trade Monday morning, as soon as they saw they got that positive test on Sunday, do you think the front office is like, all right, we got to do something because like we're gonna gas our guys out over this next month because we don't have much time left in this season. We have starting from today, we have
15 games, something like that.
We have less than 4 weeks of the schedule left, so there's not much time left anymore.
I don't know. I mean, maybe they made that move about 30 minutes before the deadline was over, so maybe. But I don't know. I mean, I felt like they were going for a starting pitcher the entire time, but they just and also they were going for a reliever. There was rumors that they were like this close. For the listeners, I'm pinching my fingers very close. They were very close to landing Trevor Rosenthal. So
I would have loved it, but yeah.
I don't necessarily know what was going through Billy Bean's mind. I think they were always looking for just some form of a pitcher.
Yeah.
And then they settled on Mike Minor because that was just kind of where the market was. And I guess they weren't willing to give up a lot, which we talked about this the last episode. I was worried about that too. I wasn't willing to give up these two good outfield prospects that we had that are going to probably be the future of our outfield with Ramon Laureano. I wasn't willing to give up these two shortstop prospects, infield prospects that we had, and Logan Davis and totally blanking on the other one.
I was going to say Austin Allen, but no. Austin Beck.
Austin Beck's the outfielder. Austin Beck
sorry.
and Skybolt. It's Logan Davis and Nick Allen.
There we go.
So I'm happy that we still have those guys. I'm more happy that we have those guys than getting. Actually, I don't know. Clevenger would have been nice, but if it would have been something like Robbie Ray and given up a lot, I would have been pretty upset.
I could see this next week where we're going to see just to like preserve arms and to kind of save some, especially like the bullpen if we really see guys like Montas struggling a little bit, of seeing a lot of shuffling between San Jose and Oakland. Don't be shocked if you start seeing like Caprillion
100%.
coming up again, Puck coming up and staying, Paul Blackburn coming, like all these guys just coming back and forth because like we got to save some of these arms, especially again. There's only a few weeks left in the season. It's going to be really, and I forgot to mention, over the next 3-4 weeks, they have 2 days off, and that's brutal. Yeah, and they were supposed to have 3 days off, but because of the COVID tests, the 2 of the Mariners games are going to be a doubleheader on the 14th. Yeah. So this is nuts. On the 12th, they have a doubleheader in Texas, and then on 13th, they have a game in Texas, and then on the 14th, they fly, and then after the day game in Texas on the 13th, they fly to Seattle. They do a doubleheader, and then from Seattle, they fly to Colorado for 2 games, and then Thursday off. So, best of luck, guys.
We'll see how it goes down the stretch. We'll definitely get more into that in future episodes, probably when it starts to come, especially next week when we have 2 doubleheaders next week. But it's going to be an interesting road, and it's going to be very interesting to watch. And I agree. There's going to be a lot of call-ups and bring-downs in order to rest guys.
Get your popcorn ready.
All right. I think that's when we'll officially call it, though. Again, we have a fun guest next week. Make sure you tune in. All right, Julio, it's time to pack up the gear and head into the game. What do you got this week? What are you sneaking in? Are you sneaking in some wine? Sneaking in some beer? I saw you drinking Modelo's.
I had a nice classic Modelo Especial, but today I'm going at the Lagunitas Hop Stupid. Shout out to Lagunitas North Bay.
Make sure it's a bottle, not a can, so that you can get it through the metal detector.
And because we got positive COVID tests in the organization, I'm bringing my mask and extra hand sanitizer.
Always bring that. All right. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Please follow us. We love A's baseball. We'll talk it more. And last but not least, Julio.
Let's go Oakland. Please, no more positive tests.
Woo! Please not. The Town Tailgate is an independently produced podcast. It is written and executive produced by this guy, Chris Madrigal, and my partner in crime, Julio Reynoso. It is sound mixed and edited by yours truly. Social media management and marketing is run by, once again, my partner, Julio Reynoso. And a special thanks and shout out to my brother, Larry Madrigal, for composing and producing our theme song, as well as graphic designing our album cover and artwork. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please tune in next week. Please subscribe. And last but not least, as we always say, let's go Oakland.